All right, internet. Hello, 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 and welcome, 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 welcome. Um, Welcome to live streams. Welcome to Crossing the Streams show, where we're discussing all things about stream processing, reactive stuff, containers testing, and let me bring my friend Sergei here, and we will test if you also will be able to see him in a stream. So Sergey, say hi to our audience, and this is where usually we test our sounds and check if we have any echoes from your side. Hey.
Okay. I'm joking. It should be all good. Just wanted to make, Victor be a bit sweaty.
Yeah, you don't wanna let me see.
Okay. I'm joking.
Okay, so I tested on my side, so like everything's fine, everything's good, and the broadcast is actually working. Um, Welcome all these 5 people who just watching us right now. How you been, Sergey? How was everything? How was life within this last couple days? I guess since since our last our last show.
Well, when you finish the episode on something that you couldn't make work, then the next 7 days will be like, damn it, and a lot of passion to fix it this time. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this episode where we'll continue where we left last time, and also some new exciting things.
So I think it's becoming some sort of I don't know. Is it contagious or whatnot? Because I had exactly the same problem last time, like last day, like yesterday, literally. So I was showing this demo like with this like reactive client that we're developing in these live streams, and how you can integrate this with Spring Web Sockets. And I just messed up. I used the wrong method to get like streamed results instead of like I get the execute query instead of stream query, and I was like
Okay.
trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And I guess it's a kind of like unfortunate situation, or like not unfortunate, but like coincidental weird situation where um, my DNS kind of like a blipped for a second, and it also threw me in there that it was not able to find my like ksqdb server, and I was like trying to develop the figuring out where's the problem is. But apparently the problem was not even there. So the problem was that I just didn't use the stream query. So what I did, I actually record a short video right after, and I put this in. In YouTube you can get at this kind of like end card. So when the stream is over, there is the end card that points to this video where I'm back again. So we can do this next time. So we
Cheater.
no, not
Hey, that's
cheater. I
not
was
fair.
just like, yeah, I was trying to find a ways how we can like redeem ourselves if some of the streams will go south. And all right, so let's see if we have some good comments so far. Let me see if yeah.
Well, we have some of our regulars like Hey Artem, Hey Nabin, Hey Pedro. Really
So
happy to see you.
let's see what kind of comments we have. So now, like if you joined me last time at my live stream at Confluent channel, I installed special camera for comments, so we're gonna read the comments.
Ooh, that's
Um,
nice.
so yes, exactly. So the Sergey was asking about how many episodes it takes to finalize the OBS for streaming, and answer here is just like too many episodes. It would be. Um, is it just me, or I'm kind of like a blocky, and my video is sort of like a very slow. Folks, let me know in the comments, because I see is something is not right on my side.
Yeah, it does feel like your FPS is something like 10 frames per second,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
15.
crazy. That's not how it's supposed to be. Let me see if I can fix this real quick. As you mentioned last time, just disable all sorts of the auto detection on the OBS side. Maybe it would be better. What about now? Is it a little bit better? No. It's
Yes.
still kind of like FPS low, but I don't understand why it's happening. What about this one? Let me see if this camera has the same problem.
But now finally I have a proper FPS and you have this laggy 10 frames per second, so it will feel almost like I'm streaming from my computer, not from your computer. Yay!
Yeah, I was thinking. Let me see why my comments is not showing up here. The I'm interested. I guess I just like remove this. Okay, so I think that should be. I should be right. Like on my local side, I feel everything's fine. In the way how the OBS is capturing, I guess is messed up. So speaking about how many episodes it requires to set up streaming, is just just too many.
Yeah.
Just too many episodes.
And as with any other software, it will break by the time you configure everything because there will be some update or something else.
So let me know if
yeah.
this camera also is laggy, because I, even though we're using, I think some FPS you like to have when you play, and yeah, exactly. You don't want to have this kind of like very slow FPS. So why OBS is doing this for me? I don't know. And the Sergei is alright, right? So let me switch to Sergei, and yeah, I see like you just like moving just fine, like everything's great. Let me try one more thing. Is I'll try to kind of.
Dear guests, thanks for joining me. Today I will be your only host because my other host is laggy. Today we'll be talking about everything I want because my other host is busy setting up his OBS. So I'm kinda abusing him at the moment because he is doing all the job and here I am joking about him while he's trying to get proper video. Probably
Let's
if
see
he did
if
the
it's better.
setup upfront.
Yeah, let's see if it's better. Let's see if it's better. So I feel that sometimes I prefer to do like more hardware setup. Like every time when I deal with like software usually suck comparing to hardware. So this is why like the software setup is always better. So people, let me know.
Okay, now it's better.
Yeah, Sergey's sound is laggy by design. So we didn't work on this one like specifically, but we do have a few more episodes to tune this. We even we can do this kind of all great shows that go on the low budget, and like every episode they're trying to improve. This is what we are. Remember how we started? It was just like even I don't know. There was a different, even though there was no fancy background.
And if you want to check how we started, Viktor just created a playlist on YouTube where you can just check all the episodes that we recorded so far. And this one is 6, I think. Yeah, it's 6 episode. And now I think you can just go and press like previous episode and next episode while watching, and then you will be able to see all the previous episodes as well. How cool is that, right? Viktor, say something. Now it is awkward.
No, I'm here. I just, it's just like doing the live streams in the middle of the day, and like everyone trying to get piece of you. It's just crazy. Sorry, guys. All right, so it's just like, let's consider this kind of like a lobby chat or like hallway chat where we didn't even start it, and we do have some, some chats. So let's recap. So let me give some control to Sergey, so he will redeem himself by showing you folks how. So essentially, like let's do recap like from the last episode. So what we're trying to do here. to be not super far-fetched about the software stacks or things that we use, we actually start developing some of the use case. And as a real agile development process, we're developing this use case like also in agile fashion. So we didn't prepare specification in the very beginning of like a show. We should decide, oh yeah, we should do live streams, and what we're going to talk about, like software, what we're talking about. So over the time, I also come up with some ideas. Sergei come up with some brilliant ideas. We try to we realized that we probably started like too fast when we just like throw you into this. Yay! There's Liklus. There's super cool bit of technology that is reactive. That is like RSocket, WebSocket, RPC, Kafka, and you were like overwhelmed and things like that. So I think naturally we did like a few steps back, and plus in parallel, I also got hooked into this reactive world and get like very fascinated with some of the like frameworks and the things that I didn't pay attention. Let's just put this like I didn't pay attention to all this like cool things that you call kids already paying attention and like using. And we found that, oh yeah, that's actually not a bad idea to talk about. So in my separate channel in the Confluent, I was talking about like ksql, and it's happened to have ksql have a reactive client, what was not it was too low level for like direct consumption. So it was more like a Lego blocks that you use to build something. So I decided, okay, so let me learn along the way how we usually do in the streams, plus explore some of it. So this way the project reactor comes into play, and project reactor fits very well with real world projects. So I was thinking maybe project reactor wrapper for ksqdb Java is actually a very good bridge to real world projects like Spring. So this is why my last episode that I did on the Confluent channel, I was talking about like WebFlux and WebSocket, and how very easy I just like substitute auto-generated kind of like a random UID generator, which is written in Project Reactor with Flux API, with ksqdb API. It was super easy because ksqdb Java Reactor client provided all these kind of things. And today we're going doing step back and returning to this, how I start developing this project reactor wrapper and how the Sergei is helping me to develop some of the bits. And the last time we started talking about how we can speed up the testing of my runs of my tests. And one of the things that we started talking about was the reuse of the containers. So with this one, let me see if I can pass the control to Sergei. Sergei, we see your screen right now. Can you do bigger font, like significantly bigger? I think that people will enjoy bigger fonts. I need to share with you my profile for Terminal, so you can also show.
Yeah, I need to finally set it up properly.
The fancy, to make it fancy. You are like a Java champion. You are like a speaker on the conferences. You need to have a fancy terminal, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Where's my screen? All right. So, and I'm back to a screen, and now I'm looking to your code and what we are doing right away. So, did you get the latest and greatest bits from repository? Because I fixed a few things and updated dependencies and stuff.
I did not. So I guess I'll just start with plain update.
Yeah.
Probably I'll have to fix some merge conflicts.
Hey, or even
be fun, right?
Or even just like just accept whatever is there, and
okay.
We add this reuse like very easy.
Okay, then I'll accept right because it is right.
Yes, it works, and I was fancy to set up a GitHub action just to build and run the test every time when I commit. Yeah, because I never use it. Previously I used most of the time either what we're talking about, the Travis or Sirius CI. But yeah.
Actually, I think GitHub Action is amazing. I mean, I'm trying to use it everywhere. And just recently, Alexey Shepilov from Red Hat, he integrated GitHub Actions into a few OpenJDK repositories like JMH and GC Stress, because they just migrated to GitHub. And one of the things you get while migrating to GitHub is GitHub Actions built in CI, and this is great, I think. And he was quite happy with the result.
So I need to step for a minute, and I will leave you be here. Everything is running, everything is fancy. So do not just behave. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I'll get back in a few seconds.
Okay. So I guess I'll just do the same thing we were trying to do last time. And currently here I see this reuse already. And I see that Viktor already fixed it for me, but I'll roll back to the problem I had. So what I tried to do last time is I tried to use with network aliases everywhere consistently. So it was like this and like this. And we were trying to fake the network ID to ksqdb. I think it was like this. So for now, I'll create this network create manually, because we are hacking around. You don't need to do it. Just we are hacking around. We're trying to get it working. And if I run the test, and we already tried to run it, we won't get the result we wanted with reuse true, and here's with reuse true as well. So it will attempt to reuse, but unfortunately it would fail. And the reason why it was failing is because I was using this with network aliases. The thing is how reuse works, like how TestContainers reuses the container. It does not run, or like it does not store anything stateful, but instead it will hash the container definition, and check for already running container with said hash. If you have anything randomized, let's say network ID or container name or volume name or whatever, then it will obviously affect the hash. And that's what was happening. Things that was affecting the randomization is that with network aliases, as any other with style method in TestContainers, and I'll just download the sources so that I can grasp the sources, but we'll see it even without the sources. Okay, as any other with method in TestContainers, if it is a collection, it will add it to the collection. It won't override the collection. And by default, for convenience, come on, IntelliJ, I just downloaded it. Oh, really? Okay, let me just go here. Okay, and by default, because we thought it is convenient, we set the network aliases to a randomized ID so that it can refer by alias without having to come up with an alias upfront. It worked really well before it actually worked. It still works very well, but the problem is, what if you want to use something like multi-container reuse, something that we are trying to do at the moment? I assumed that with network aliases would set it to some static value, and this part of the code, I think I wrote it. So yeah, what we need to do is we need to override network aliases with our fixed set of network aliases. And that's what I'll be doing. I'll be using set network aliases instead of, can I use list of? Please. Yes, I can use list of. Perfect. So instead of adding to the array, we'll just override it with some static value. And the same with schema registry, set network aliases, list of this. And the same for ksql server, list of this. Network aliases. Cool. Now we have network ID as a static value. We have the network aliases as a static array of aliases. So it should be good now. Let me check whether it's using the, yeah, perfect. So I think now if I run this test once, it will start everything because I don't have anything running except the reactor ksqdb network created. We will later create it, like by using the API, so that we don't need to create the network manually, but let's just test it with some static value.
And I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's. I'm doing some of the home maintenance. This is the luxury of, having home. Just need to take care of all this stuff yourself.
Yep. By the way, you may have noticed that we are using this fancy syntax, double braces initialization, and
Well,
yeah, it's actually
it's not fancy syntax. It was there in Java like thousands of years, like, right? It was like from very beginning.
yes,
It's
that's
kind
correct.
of the way how you. It's is it like a Kotlin style to do of how it's called with or s or something like that?
It's not even that. It's actually you create an anonymous object, anonymous class, sorry, like this, and then Java language allows you to provide an initializer, instance initializer, and if you have some field, like let's say string foo, then we can assign this field to hello. And if we don't have any field, then we can just do it like this, and it will look like kind of an instance initializer. Auto is just a combination of two features, anonymous class and the initializer. And obviously, I
use this
messed
type of
up.
syntax a lot when I need to say, like, if you ever done like hack, like using concurrent hash map as your cache, you need to implement method put, and you need to, evict something before you do put, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's funny. It fails. Did you change anything else? No response bootstrap was given in bootstrap row.
So
Oh wow.
no, I don't think I did change something.
Oh, okay. Yay, some debugging.
Yeah. So you say there's what was the error?
So first of all, let me check whether Kafka is running. Nope, it's not running. Let's see the logs again. By the way, the good things about. Oh, what? Text file busy? Jesus. Okay. That must be some
Race
super
condition.
weird behavior of
Test
Docker or
containers.
whatever. No, definitely not test containers. I mean, test containers is perfect. But actually, most of the times when people ask us about like why test containers doesn't work, it's actually Docker that doesn't work, but not test containers. And there is a lot of things that we need to work around or overcome or make it easier for you folks to use Docker for testing. But it's not an excuse. It's just an observation because I'm trying to answer almost every community request that we receive, like questions, StackOverflow questions as well. And yeah, it's just an observation. But it's funny. I mean, I think it's good indicator that the library itself is designed more or less okay when most of the issues are coming from, from external dependencies. Okay, let's try to rerun, and I just hope there was some glitch. Yeah, it looks like a glitch. Jesus, file is busy. It must be something on the file system level. But I just updated my Docker. Last week I updated my Docker, and they introduced something fancy. Where is Docker? Yeah, this gRPC fuse thing, the one that caused the problem of running test containers on Docker for Mac, by the way. So if you have Docker for Mac, you just updated it to version 2.4.0, and something's not working for you. Just try to disable the switch or update test containers to version 1.15.0-RC2, and everything will be fine. But yeah, so maybe this implementation is buggy because this file is busy. I mean, it cannot be busy. I'm not even sure what it means. Okay, anyways. So we have the thing running. One of the tests fails, by the way. Victor, this one is yours. You'll fix it later. But for now, just continue with what we have. So we just run the test. We should see the containers running. 3 containers. Okay, ksql, schema registry, and Kafka. Perfect. If we inspect Kafka, then we should see that, let me scroll up, I think, to the relevant part. Okay, nothing randomized here. We see this test containers hash equals to f6cc and blah, blah, blah. And in the aliases, we won't see tc dash and some random value anymore, but it's rather Kafka and automatically assigned alias by Docker. But the good thing is, despite it being automatically assigned and random, it's not part of the container creation request, which means that this random value will not affect the creation of container, which means that it won't affect the hashing. Cool. So we run some tests. It took took some time to execute it. Build successfully failed it in 1 minute 39 seconds.
Successfully failed.
Now we can run it again, and I hope that I did everything correctly. Yep, it's already running the test. Boom.
It also successfully failed. Yeah.
Yes.
So actually, it's a good thing that we have this failure. We can talk about this, but this is expected. It's kind of like 42 not equals 45 or something like that.
This is what I tell my manager as well. Like, it's good that we have this failure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good that it failed.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I hope that I restored my credibility, because last time that's literally one thing that made me not get the result that I wanted. I was using with network aliases. So if you want to hack around something similar in your setup, please make sure that you do the right thing.
So,
yeah.
In this case, what's the difference between with alias and the set alias?
If you didn't leave us, then you would hear that with network alias adds it to the array.
Okay.
So we can just, rewatch our episode, maybe put some annotations, and then you hear my beautiful explanation of why.
Speaking about annotations, thank you so much, Kirill, for the time codes from last time. I really appreciate your work, and thanks for help.
I second that.
Yep. And do not forget like the stream, right? So in this case,
I thought that you're talking. Do not forget to like Kirill.
And Kirill comments. You can go to like Kirill comments from the previous live stream, where you know how to find it, since we do have a playlist of all episodes now, so you know how to find the previous episode. Yeah. So what we're looking at is a different failure, right?
Yeah, but this is test-related failure.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. This is something that also you might help me with. I think it's a matter of getting right order, and I think I messed up this on the reactive programming side of things.
Okay, we can fix it later.
Yep.
But if you don't mind, I just want to finish this one with something interesting. Like, there's one thing that's still missing, because remember I had to create this network myself. So if I just remove all the containers, and now if I remove the network, which one it was? So let's just drop it. Network, like this. Then the whole thing will fail because it will attempt to find network ID and it won't work. So yeah, it fails. Fails quite fast because the network could not be found. Okay, cool. So what can we do, or what should we do? First things that we can do is first of all protect it with that equals new atomic false. And now if created if created, then we return. Otherwise, we synchronize if created, or actually, we
Wait,
just do it like
what?
this. Never do this at home, but I can. I wonder if I can just return. Ah, okay.
Unreachable.
No, I cannot just use return. I need to return the value, and I wanted to avoid it. But anyways, okay. Let's just synchronize on this. But what I'm doing here is, I mean, I could probably just do a simple check, but I want to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. So if created, excuse me, we return. If not created, and we are in the synchronized block, so we have an exclusive lock, we can call the Docker API. So we have a reference to the Docker client. Now we do something like create network command with name. Yeah, why not? Is check duplicate true because we want to fail fast.
So why are we doing this here, but not somewhere like before block, like before class, or we just because I'm using static and initializers, right? Okay, that's
So I kind of ignored the JUnit part.
Yeah.
We'll get rid of it eventually, but yeah.
But essentially, there's nothing wrong to do this in like before class or before block, where you're setting up the environment, where I set it up environment.
Yeah, we could do it there as well. Just I'm trying to implement a network that is lazily created and then it uses static ID. And if you're like, why is this what it takes to use test containers? No, that's actually
it's the right way to use the test containers.
Yeah, just abusing test containers.
in Viktor's code by request. Speaking about request, if you want Sergei to abuse your code, also send us request. We'll do it in a live fashion.
And by the way, if you want me or Viktor to abuse anything you want, just write down a command, leave a command, or in chat, just tell us what you want to see us talking about. And some of the episodes we'll do an episode about the technology you mentioned, most probably, unless this is something fancy that we don't know.
Like Scala.
Like Scala, yeah. Scala is crazy. No, please don't ask me to.
We do have some question in the comments. So I'm switching to my.
Oh, really?
So yeah, is the only way to create network for test? And I think answer is no. We already said that this is not the only way how you can create this for test. You can do again. I'm running in front of a train and jumping in front of a gun, but the Sergei might provide a little bit context here because right now, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to find this workaround, and the workaround is quite nasty in order to make the reuse the Kafka containers because there's too many like intricacies in the Kafka network is itself the way how Kafka containers work are itself interesting thing.
Actually, yeah, or maybe not the Kafka container itself because we get rid of any networking in Kafka containers. But the thing is, there is a very easy way to create a network with test containers. And don't be surprised because it's as simple as network, new network. And then you have an instance of the network that you can then call get ID and it will create the network automatically, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, it will create a random network with a random ID. And that's not what we want. We want to have a static, kind of static name so that it won't affect the hashing of our setup because we use multi-container setup connected into network. And unless we want to start a new set of containers for each test, and then because they're reusable, they'll be running even after we stop the test. This isn't something that we want to. This is why we are using this complicated setup. And what I'm doing, actually, I'm just trying some ideas that we may add to test containers later. But most of the things we added to test containers were initially just some experiments in some private repos or some user feedback or some ideas that we had. But yeah, it's always good to evaluate your ideas. And the beauty of test containers is that you have access to the Docker client, to the low-level Docker Java clients that we are using, the same clients that we are using, and you have generic container, which is also a very low-level abstraction, actually, that you can use, or this medium-level abstraction. So it's not as low-level as Docker Java, but on the other hand, it is kind of
It's opinionated. It's something that test containers use internally, and some of the methods in this client, they might be like 100, not 100% correspond to the, the Docker Java clients, Docker client, Docker Java, the methods. So, there's a word for this. It's called purposely built.
Yes.
It's like if you want to sound like fancy. So the Alexander, the answer here, no, we just again, there's something that you might see on these live streams, maybe not 100% safe, or you want to use in your production code. And to answer to Artyom, yes, Kotlin is better than Scala if you're asking about this. Yeah, so we can talk about Kotlin in the future if we will find the right fit here. So it's all about.
Should we do something like if this video gets 100 likes?
I would love
Sergei
to.
will be doing
I would
Kotlin
love
in
to.
Next episode.
Yes, I would love to. But like before we do Kotlin, we should do Groovy first, and after that we can go into Kotlin because people might not be ready for. Groovy is better than Kotlin. Obviously, like every day of year, every day of day. The Groovy is life. Groovy is everything. So, thanks Kevin for dropping by and complimenting our setup. He is.
Apparently, my live chat wasn't actually being updated live. So
where did you?
I actually
Where do you
missed
watch
a lot
it?
of things.
Where do you watch this on a browser or through the app?
Browser. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, now I see. I'm also happy to see Kevin. Kevin is a member of Test Containers. So he's one of the co-maintainers. So it's three of us: Richard North, who created the library, Kevin, and me. And I'm really happy to see him here. He is also doing Test Container streams, by the way, where he's hacking around some pull requests, and actually stole the idea last time, and we contributed to Test Container. So I was trying to do, Kevin's thing.
Yeah, we need to put we need to put his YouTube channel. I will do that, and you can continue to
Twitch channel.
Twitch. Oh, so fancy. And I feel like we are like old farts. We're doing this in a YouTube like old style because all the cool kids on Twitch. Kevin, if you can like DM me your like Twitch channel, I don't know, or if you can try to put this in comment. I don't think I restricted this with the some level of security and not allowing links. But you can just like put this in your Twitch channel here.
So should we try running this thing? I mean, I just coded something. I'm not even sure it works correctly, but it should. Like we use the same create network as Docker network create uses. So there's no less whatever. Yeah, there's no ksql DB reactor ksql DB network. So let's just start it and let's watch what's going on. It's so funny and unscripted. Like I literally haven't tried doing it. Maybe it won't work. Just let's give it a chance. Okay, the network's created. What about the containers? Containers are created. They're starting, and yeah, it takes a little bit to start because we start a lot of things. Actually, we start Kafka, we start schema registry, we start ksqdb. Probably, I mean, I'm not sure if ksql supports something like in memory mode. I don't think so, but it would be cool.
What do you mean in memory mode?
Like imagine KSQL using embedded Kafka so that I can just start KSQL and nothing than KSQL just to,
To
start
test it
less
out.
things. Yeah.
So there is even like a headless test runner. If you need to run some tests, we don't need to even run whole, topology. So we're
Uh,
doing this it's integration test. Again, it's not unit test. It is integration test. So that's why it's okay to start Kafka, schema registry, and other bits.
mhm.
So
But then you would bring like a lot of dependencies, right, into your class path, like Scala, most probably, Kafka, I
no, no.
suppose.
So the way
No?
how it works is actually declarative. It is you essentially have your SQL file where all these statements are written, and you have an input, what
Mhm.
input you're expecting from this app, and there's output. So you have a bunch of like stream definitions, table definitions, and after that you run some, I don't know, like select
Okay.
star from
So,
stream 1, limit 10, and after that you have a 10 records on the output. So it is it's simple as it sounds, doesn't use
mhm.
any infrastructure. It basically feeds whatever you put on input through the parser. That parser query
Okay.
executes the plan of this query, creates all these in-memory objects that ksqdb will be using, and after that, the feeds input data that you provide in the input file through this
Mhm.
topology. So the same idea is available in a topology test driver, which is Kafka Streams uses, right? The
Mhm.
topology test driver is the idea of these tools is just like you need to use this for a very for a unit test. Like you need to run this
Mhm.
like very fast. You need to run this without any effort. But like we can figure out, like we can talk about. I don't think if embedded Kafka actually exposes network. So like if you use embedded Kafka, and can you access to it through? I know there's some of the integrations that are available on
Mm,
TestContainers that use embedded Kafka as a kind of like a separate fast starting container or something
mhm.
like that, right?
Mhm.
And previously we spoke about this, and you were not very high.
Oh, I had the issues.
Yeah, this thing was not highly regarded in your book. So,
Mhm.
let's see what kind of what questions do we might have.
Mhm.
So, question: reuse really increases speed, but what drawbacks with using that method of starting up containers? Artem is asking.
Mhm. Well, first of all, Kevin did a good job answering the question. So thanks, Kevin. I'll just quickly summarize that. One of the things that in test containers we always care about is we try to prevent any conflicts between the tests, and we try to prevent any pollution of your test environment. Let's say we never want to have something dangling. Like we start a container, and our responsibility to destroy this container. The reusability mode does exactly the opposite. The idea is to keep the container running. And one of the reasons why we consider it an alpha quality feature and it's marketed as an alpha quality experimental feature, although it's being widely used, is because we still need to implement the sidecar that will be eventually cleaning such reusable containers. We don't want them to be running forever, like Docker Compose. We want them to eventually terminate. This is why we didn't want to market as production ready feature. Although we are talking about testing, so it's always about what works for you, and as long as it works, then it's good. But there is nothing scary about the reusable containers feature, and it is a real time saver. So actually, we just tried to run this test. It successfully failed in 90 or in 49 seconds. And if we run it again with this code that will automatically create the network, it should now fail with this exception. Okay, we're running very fast, as you can see. Yeah, it says that the network with this name already exists, which is good. and we handle this exception and we ignore it. I mean, I can just ignore it, and we return the ID. And probably some people who are watching this these streams are like, extract the variable you're using magical values like extracted. Okay. Network ID. Okay, I hear you. I'll extract this network ID. I cannot make it static, by the way, because it's anonymous class. And that's unfortunate that I cannot do it with anonymous classes, by the way. But okay. So we have it running, we have it working, which is very cool. And one thing that we could also do, this is why I didn't want to extract it actually, instead of kind of using this network ID as static variables that would conflict, what we can do is we can create a file automatically from our code, because that's the whole beauty of test containers. You write code, you control everything with your code, and you can do whatever you want with code. So Viktor, do you think we should do it?
Like you want to create file that will include information about the network, kind of sort of environment, right? So say, okay, allow reuse and use network type of thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe not in allow reuse, but
yeah,
it can be as simple as something like, let's start hacking. I mean, of course, I didn't prepare it, and this time we have a lot of time. Although I want to focus on other things, but yeah, we have a lot of time to play around.
Yeah.
So let's code file network ID. Okay, I just don't want to think about the file names. Like life's too short to think about the file names and variable names. So file var file equals file, right? And first we need to check whether the file exists. If file exists, then we read the content of the file. Our network ID will be some random network ID, right? So if file exists, then I would just use client to check whether the network still exists. Network, so we can inspect network. Jesus, is network ID
saying, like
top?
No, we're sharing screen. We're good. I don't know. Alexander, you probably missed the part where we're sharing the screen, but we are sharing the screen. There's a, if you want to catch up to live thing, there's a button called live, and after that you will be always in a live mode.
So let's hack around something. Read lines from a file, and I'll do it very ugly way, just network ID.
And you handle
this
exception.
One, network ID will be persisted network ID. So of course, exceptions. Yay, check it, exceptions. Catch exception E. Guess we'll just ignore and proceed with new network created. This network ID, we execute, and just this file enough would be, or this method enough would be, this method would be enough to check whether the network exists or not. So if it passes, then we assign the network ID to persisted network ID, and I guess we should also move it here, like oh, it's so ugly. Like this code, really, I would never write it, but I'm doing it live, so yeah, I just hope that I'll still be employed tomorrow. Like if someone
hide the panel, down panel, because we want to see your
maybe
code.
I wanted you to focus on the relevant part. Okay, yeah, just joking. So the last thing that we need to do is if we created the file. Oh Jesus, I'm gonna make it even more uglier.
Do it. This is
True. Created equals false. Oh, it's we created the network. Yay. So if we created the network, like if we did this thing, actually, I don't need to do it like this, but if we assign the network ID to persist, what I'm doing, like literally what I'm doing, like if file exists, if a network exists, we return persisted network ID. Oh, this is so stupid. Otherwise, so we return. Otherwise, we randomize the network ID. I wonder if we need to enter the synchronized block for that. Yeah, I think we should. Oh, Jesus. And I'm working on reactive framework, and
yeah, there's synchronized stuff everywhere.
Yes. So if file exists and if network exists, then we return it. Otherwise, we randomize the network ID. I'll remove the field. Yes. And if we successfully create this network ID, then files write file pass bytes. Okay, network ID get bytes. Cool. Open options. I think it's
Imagine
standard.
how this code would look like in Groovy, by the way. Just saying.
Oh yeah. Like.
Because you moved the network ID.
I did. But I think we don't need this created flag because we have a file now that we can always check. It won't be as performant as we want, but we call this get ID like 2 or 3 times, so we don't really care. Like, whatever. We're talking about testing after all. We don't need to run like 5 million queries per second. So we check the file. If it exists,
and this stuff will be executed just like once because when we start in the container.
This get ID will be called by Kafka when you start it, but then
schema
also
registry
by
and
schema registry
ksqdb.
and ksql server. Yeah, or something like this. So let's clean up. Boom. So if I run this thing, which is going to be so fun. I mean, most probably it won't work because I missed something obvious, but let's check. But yes, you can see you can hack around things. Just the fact that it's not exposed through the public API of TestContainers doesn't mean that you cannot do it, as long as you know what you're doing. And here I know what I'm doing, or I thought that I know what I'm doing, but yeah, it doesn't take a lot of effort to learn how Docker API works and how TestContainers works internally. And after all, we are just creating some objects, and it's very trivial when it comes to creating and listing Docker objects. Okay, so it started, it worked. Network, some network. We have this network ID file now that we can add to git ignore. Awesome, because we obviously need to ignore it. It will be per environment. And this is the network ID.
And we will have it just to, to do inspect in case of failures and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Seems to be working. 3 containers are running. Oh, seriously. Okay, the containers are running. And now the moment of truth.
Will it be faster? Will we fail faster?
I mean, it should.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it will work at all. Oh, yes, it works. Yes. It even passed for some reason. I mean, I don't know why it passed. Like,
because there's a flankness and there's the race condition which we will address.
Yes.
So switching to questions. So if I understand correctly, to be able to reuse, it is not necessary to set up custom network in your tests, right?
This is not right. And usually to reuse, you just need to do something like with reuse on the object, and that's it. Or in case of, let's say, GDBC URL, you can just set tc reusable equals true. So I'm sharing my screen, or like I'm showing it on my screen. Victor, if you may.
Yeah, I'm.
If I may, I mean. So it is an option, GDBC option. If you're using GDBC containers, here I'm reusing DB2, which is a huge beast, actually, if you know what DB2 is. But also with Kafka, this one is not required with TestContainers 1.15.0 anymore, but just adding this with reuse and setting TestContainers reuse enable true would do the job. The reason we did all of that, like this advanced usage
of Kafka container. If you're just using this with like Kafka application, you probably should be fine. But here, I want to use some other components that I bring alongside with Kafka container.
Yes, and we connected all of them into the same network, and by default, network ID will be randomized. So reuse would still work, but with random network ID, which means that it will always create a new container. Here we hacked around a solution that will persist the network ID, and then it will use the same network ID each run. It's randomized, but we persist it, and then it will set the same network aliases because we don't need random network aliases, and this whole thing will make the hashing return the same value, or the hash to be the same. So what you're looking at is an advanced usage of the API just to get it fancy. There's a question of how to reuse a single container between the tests, and I can quickly show it, just an example.
Single container across multiple test classes. If we have many test classes to test Postgres, for example, how to set up the container for one of them?
What I would recommend is, for example, I'm not sure which. Okay. So what I would recommend and what I prefer to use is so-called singleton container. So let's say I want to reuse Kafka between my tests. So Kafka, new Kafka, that's it. And if you're using TestContainers 1.15, then you should also explicitly provide the version of Kafka you want to use. And version, okay, actually.
A Docker image.
Yes, that's correct, because it was previously accepting a tag, which is incorrect, or not correct anymore. So here I just defined Kafka. I don't need the reusable containers mode. It's not the same. So if you want to reuse containers in the same JVM session, you don't need to use all this reusable mode, storing network IDs or whatever. You can just rely on the fact that it's static. Just okay, my cat is running around again. So did I really type Kafka? Ah, jeez. What we do here, we define Kafka as a static variable. Then we start it. It's idempotent. So if you start it like multiple times, it won't start like 4 times, but once. And then you can use this.
Which is actually a good segue. We can talk about this in a bit. You know,
yes.
in a multiple, how to start multiple Kafkas.
Yes. And then you can extend from this class like foo test, extend abstract integration test. That's just one of the ways of doing this. It's really up to you how you want to do it. Like this test, text, oh geez. And of course, bar test. This is all documented, by the way. Test. Tup, tup. And now if I run, If I run foo test and bar tests, then we will see that we start only one Kafka for all tests. Doesn't matter how many tests you extend from this abstract integration test. And I'm using extend, and I'm extending from abstract class just because I prefer to do it so like so. But you can create whatever, like Kafka container holder, let's say. And then the same thing, you can define Kafka there, or you can do something like fancy, like Kafka container testing support. This one is very fancy, actually. Let me show you. Import. Okay. So here I'm using interface, so I don't have to extend. I can implement Kafka container testing support, assert, and we will add some method like, all right, we can just access Kafka actually. Kafka container test support, Kafka get bootstrap servers not equals no. And the other test will serve the same. Kafka container testing support. And if we run it, it will pass. And there will be only one Kafka running for both tests or for all tests that implement this interface. And the good thing about JUnit platform is that it will detect before all from interfaces that test implements, so that it can use this. It's not a hack, it's actually a feature, and implement traits for your tests. This is what we just did here. And if we inspect the logs, then container Kafka is started, and boom, our tests are running. Executed 2 tests, but only one Kafka started. So as you can see, was it foo or bar? Yeah, foo test triggered the Kafka start. This is why we see Kafka startup log in the standard output. But then if we inspect bar test, then it will be empty because the Kafka is already started. And we inspect. Okay, so we have 3 Kafkas running because we connect them into network. We cannot reuse them because they have a different hash. But if I go here and say I want to reuse this Kafka just as simply as this, so as you can see, I'm just setting with reuse, no networks, no aliases, nothing like that. But I say Kafka with reuse, I run it once, it will start Kafka. The Kafka will be running, and the second time we will run this, it will be almost instant because it takes 100 to 200 milliseconds to detect already running container. So this test successful in 16 seconds and started in 14 seconds. Now if you run it again, so I can inspect. Okay, we have 2 Kafkas running up for 26 seconds, and it's already finished. And it says that it started in 2.79 because I'm streaming from my machine at the moment, so it's under load. So some Docker commands like
You don't
Docker.
say.
Yes, but Docker PS takes a bit longer and some other commands. Plus, it also takes environment detection into account. But as you can see, yeah, just 2 seconds and we have Kafka running. And I think there's some overhead from Gradle as well. But it's much faster than waiting 14 seconds, right? And the Kafka is still running, of course. Here it is running. So this is an example of how you can use Kafka with reusable mode to keep it running between JVM sessions. And if we remove with reuse, then it will be reused, but only in this test session. So every time you start your test, like you press this test button, it will start Kafka once because it is a static variable. So it nothing to do about test containers, but rather as long as your objects are idempotent and you share them as static variable, you can do this in Java. It's just Java's feature or JVM's feature. And yeah, that's test containers.
So essentially two options here. If you're using this like a trait style implementation, you will have a so it is going to be like all the tests within so if you're running say Gradle test, can you do that and it will just use one Kafka per all these tests that you have in this Gradle suite, right?
Yes, it will.
And when do you want to do reuse if you need to run multiple consecutive? So I think the main point here that you folks need to remember, reuse is more for your developer productivity, right? You're just hacking around, sitting there, you're writing tests, you're focusing on this. You don't want to focus on infrastructure and after that, like, break your flow. And that's why you already have some containers. So in this case, like especially in the case of Kafka, you want to also make sure that you clean up after your tests. Like if you're creating topics, so in this case, your test results will not be affected by some of the side effects from the previous runs. So always it's always trade-offs here. Like you get the faster speed to execute those tests, and I think it's a fair trade-off in in this world. So let's see if what our questions.
We had a question
if
about
we need to
AfterAll.
if you need to close something after all the test, AfterAll will work once. I think AfterAll should also work the same. AfterAll within. Do you see the question?
Yeah, I see it. This question is actually a pure JUnit Jupyter question, and the answer is no. It will be executed for each test suite. So I'm not saying test class because you may have test suits explicitly defined, but it's not. So first of all, it's not test container specific. Just I know how it works in JUnit Jupyter, but also you cannot achieve something like test suits that easily. The JUnit Jupyter team are working on integrating or introducing test suits, but currently it's not supported.
JUnit Jupyter, it's JUnit 5?
Yes, it's so JUnit 5 is the ecosystem. And there is a JUnit vintage engine, which is for JUnit 4 annotations. Then there is JUnit Jupyter with all these new annotations like parameterized test, add test from org JUnit Jupyter, before all and others. And this is why I'm referring to JUnit Jupyter, because I could also use just JUnit 4 here if we had, so as IntelliJ suggests, if we had JUnit 4 runner, which is JUnit vintage, then it would also work. But what I want to demonstrate is that we can also get rid of any JUnit specific things here. Like if we can keep it as simple as just, can I make it private, I think? No, I cannot, of course. But yeah, we define static Kafka instance, and then for each get bootstrap servers, which is the only access point we assume there is to Kafka, we call Kafka start because we know that we can call it multiple times and it will start only once. And then we return bootstrap servers. And this is how it looks now. Get bootstrap servers, not equals now. I'll just enable reuse to save some time. But yeah, no JUnit required at all. Just previously I was starting Kafka from JUnit, and now I started on demand when someone requests bootstrap servers.
So another question. So reuse is not for CI pipeline, is more like hacking around the dev machine. I think it's
oh yeah, definitely
correct. But there's some cases where it might also work on CI. I guess the start of Kafka is still kind of tolerable, right? But like there's some bigger things like DB2 you mentioned, right? How long it requires to start DB2, like if you want to do this. But in general,
actually,
yeah. But actually,
yes. But actually, DB2 isn't that slow. Like it takes around 25 seconds, and the same amount, or like I compare numbers and I remember the numbers, and it takes almost the same time, like 25 seconds to start DB2 and maybe 23 seconds to start Kafka, at least when I was comparing. So I wouldn't say that DB2 is, said DB2 starts very slow.
Okay, not DB2. There's some cases where your stack might take to start this, But in general, what you want to have on your CI, you want to have a clean environment, right? So it's something that it's not about speed in general, right? Speed is what developers want. They want to have it on their machines.
Yeah, fast feedback.
Fast feedback, exactly. So like even I don't know, like if you're using like TDD style, but like you probably don't. It's not a good idea to use TDD style for integration tests because again, people do not forget we are developing integration tests here, right? So it's something that uses syntax and APIs of the framework that you know created and designed for unit testing. So think about this as a like
actually,
think about this as a kind of DSL that you using to describe your test, and how this test would be executed is up to underlying framework, in this case test containers.
but frankly speaking, I prefer, like, I'm doing integration TDD, like ITDD, so that when I develop a service, so I've been doing microservices for many years before I moved to the open source development and libraries. And what we were doing local TDD workflows with integration tests. We never started our we never even tried to start our applications, our microservices locally, because it's pointless. Like, it's easier to run the tests, and that's what we were doing. And with reusable containers mode, it's super fast and easy to do. We did run some unit tests as well, but for
For units, for
algorithms.
small bits.
Yeah, but I once say that if you have a set of integration tests, you'll have a good enough coverage. And you can increase the coverage by adding some unit tests. But for me, the good starting point is just write enough integration tests, and then you will be good already, because you will know that your application at least runs fine. And the opposite is, starting with a lot of unit tests so that your application cannot be refactored. Nothing can be done to the application without rewriting half of the test. And apparently your application doesn't even start with a real database because, there is some issue apparently. Yeah, this is why I prefer integration tests. And test containers made it very easy to write them and to start them. So
And you
why not?
think about this, like many developers will find this also more natural to do this on real stuff, right? Like what you do, you're developing a Kafka application, you need to start Kafka locally, and after that you're testing, writing the Kafka, reading from Kafka. Same here with integration test. It just simplifies
I always tell this story.
startup. Yeah.
I remember a company, of course, I won't tell you which one, but they were using Elasticsearch, and for their tests, they were doing unit tests. They started with very simple query. They were using Lucene query, so it was very easy to assert that, okay, when request comes in with the following Lucene query, then it returns this. Then they started doing some aggregations, and they thought, like, okay, we'll just parse the JSON and return the appropriate response. After a few months, they really ended up rewriting half of Elasticsearch instead of just using Elasticsearch embedded or test containers Elasticsearch module to do things. And this is what I don't like about unit tests. Sometimes, especially when you mock, you end up rewriting half of the technology you are targeting, and most probably you will have bugs in this implementation. And yeah, I don't really think it's a good approach, rewriting the target system, because you want to test your skills, your code. And if you write code to test your code, then who will be testing your tests? That's the question.
That was a little bit of inception. Exactly. So I think the mocking, the many people use mocking as a kind of substitution for integration testing, which is not precisely accurate way to do. You can test the contract, but not behavior, right? So this is whole idea of mocking. So that's why integration tests like test containers allows you to test like in a whole. Of course, this approach will not maybe a replacement full blown like a staging integration testing, right, or like a pre-production testing with the real stuff, but it is good. There is a good chance that if you implement the integration test using the same approach that we're showing, you will have less bugs in your SAT and the pre-prod environments. So speaking about which, shall we? Are we done with the reuse? I think we covered this, and I personally learned this nice trick with the Kafka test support. So soon you will see it in my code as well. That's just pretty nice. I was thinking how to also like simplify some of the testing that I do for my code. So now, speaking about integration testing and making things more look like environment. In our environments, usually we run more than one Kafka broker. So how we can simulate or like how we can emulate this situation using tools like test containers, or can we?
Like, you mean testing clusters of Kafka?
Yes, yeah, something like that.
This isn't something that we support out of the box, but thanks for reminding me, because there is an open pull request actually in test containers for Kafka cluster, and let me actually open it, Kafka cluster. And
I think in one word, it should be like
Actually, let me just very quickly, because I feel like really guilty for this one.
So let me
we introduced
here.
Kafka like in 2018, January 2018. It's almost 3 years old, the module. And later, like 1 year ago, Sean from Lightband, he contributed Kafka cluster support. Then we had a little bit of back and forth, and we realized that actually the current Kafka module can be used for doing the same. Like, you don't need to have a dedicated type for Kafka cluster. And the problem is that I love this pull request, but I didn't have time to properly review it. Or maybe now we will finally review it and finish it. I really hope so. But shout out to Sean who submitted it, and we can have a look.
He's with Akka or Alpaca team, right? He work.
Isn't he? I think principal engineer, continuous maintainer. I even thought that he's kind of like lead or
he was.
lead of some.
I remember some of the either like work on Kafka community or in some Kafka keeps that some doing some of the improvements in the Kafka side. So he's also using Kafka.
What I know for sure is that he integrated test containers into Alpaca Kafka, which is Akka's vision of how to integrate Kafka. Very interesting project, actually, very inspiring, a lot of cool ideas. And they replaced it SBT Docker Compose plugin, because apparently most of Docker Compose plugins available out there are not maintained anymore, because either the company have decided to go with test containers, like it happened with Docker Compose rule from Palantir. And some may say that using test containers is better because you're not using a project by Palantir due to their relationships with some government companies. I won't go deep into it, but just want to say that Palantir themselves decided to go with test containers, and they're not maintaining Docker Compose rule.
There was a Docker Compose for Gradle plugin
Mm-hmm.
that allows you kind of integrate your test with this. Have a Docker Compose. Your Gradle will start this before your test.
Mm-hmm.
That's another approach that I've seen the people doing.
Mm-hmm. But I'm not a fan of Docker Compose, so please don't ask me about Docker Compose. I mean, we said that 100 likes and we will do Kotlin, right? We will need at least 1,000 likes for me to work on Docker Compose, okay? So I'm really happy that it's never gonna happen. So yeah, that's a big relief. So yeah, they migrated to Kafka, but they want to test some cluster scenarios. And initially, the idea was that they contribute a module and then they start using the module for Kafka cluster. And apparently, we ended up with a solution that it can be done with Kafka container that we already exposed. But if we look at the Kafka cluster example, then I mean, I'll just and this thing, I mean, I love it. I mean, it's a bit of open source maintenance, but like you see this checkbox, it's so cool. Like, okay, I already reviewed this one, and as an open source maintainer, Jesus, it's so good. I mean, if someone from GitHub will ever watch this episode, thank you. So yeah, what we have here, we have Kafka container cluster, and the cool thing that he was using startable interface. That's an interface provided by TestContainers. We already talked about it a bit in the previous episode, I think,
Yes,
or
we talk
maybe a
about this.
couple.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, you can also use it, like for example, if you want to orchestrate multiple containers, like why not? It's as simple as start, stop, and dependencies. But yeah, here he's using startable so that you can, for example, annotate with add container and use our JUnit extension, and it works with startables, not with generic containers, but with startables. And if we look at the implementation, some input validation. This is so cool. I mean, there's some things that we are not usually doing, but probably we should be doing because sometimes we want to fail fast. But I just love this detail to, or like, love this attention to details. And also network, so that if you're using Kafka clusters and by default it won't be reusable, keep it in mind. Then there is a shared zookeeper, which is fine. We connect it to the same network, and Kafka containers know how to connect to external zookeepers. There is a method for that with external zookeeper. I think we tried it
Yes, we did also last time.
in episode number 4, where we were trying to fix, or was it last time?
Last time,
Last
yes.
time, yes.
Yeah, we did a
When we
lot
were
of things.
fixing.
Yeah, we did a lot of things last time. Yeah.
Wow, we did really well. So we start the zookeeper. We start number of brokers. And the trick here is to, well, first of all, to assign network aliases. So it's very similar to what we were doing. We set external zookeeper. And then we need a little bit of configuration here. This one is obviously for marking the broker with some ID, some predefined ID, so that the broker can register itself. But this one and this one, I wasn't really sure what it's all about until I think Viktor, you told me that.
Yeah, I think there was some issue in test containers. People were so essentially what happens. People were trying to test how to use producer with transactions using test
Transactions, yeah.
containers, and after that they were frustrated because they kind of like, I cannot connect. But um, the but actually. So what happened is they did not enable like debug output from containers, so they didn't see that the container failed to start due to some of the defaults that configured in
Okay.
transaction log topic that we use. So by default it uses replication factor 3, and you cannot create a topic with default value replication factor 3. So in this case, this configuration needs to be taken care of.
Okay, Viktor.
Yes.
I have like here live and recorded. I have a request to you, and I will get back to this request in every next episode, I think. But can you, push some idea of shipping a Kafka container that will be predefined for testing, like some sensitive defaults, some things
Yeah,
like
so
you just mentioned.
you wanna make kind of like a default configuration on the test containers Kafka container,
Maybe not test containers, just predefined Kafka containers that is suitable for local development. Like
Yes.
single instance Kafka container, ideally that will not be, replying with listeners back to the consumer, so that we don't need to do this hack with port reassignment. But that's changing Kafka. But even if we're not talking about this, then let's say these settings, and I know that this one and this one, these two make a lot of difference to Kafka startup time and rebalancing and stuff like this. So I remember improving the speed it takes to run Kafka tests with Kafka container just by setting these two values. And it wasn't easy to find them. One of them is from embedded Kafka. I just discovered, and if you look at the sources of embedded Kafka, you will find this being set to long max value. And it makes a lot of sense. Like we don't want to flush anything to the file system, right? Like why would we for testing?
We can for testing, not necessarily, yeah. But
Yeah.
like usually a lot of people use again in Docker Compose, and they're expecting to. So when you're flushing I'm thinking, so how the commit will work in this case. So and how the, like, if we're testing kind of like producing consumer type of cycle, how soon consumers will see the result. But I think it's okay because once it's in memory and it would be considered committed and replicated, so we should be able to advance this like high watermark.
And as I said, it's not just some random values that I decided to set.
Yeah.
It's actually part of Kafka's own testing infrastructure, or like testing capabilities it provides, which means that it could also be part of the testing profile of the Docker image for those who want to run the Docker image.
Right. So in one of the things that you can look at is in Kafka tutorials. In the Kafka tutorials, we're trying to provide like minimum sensible defaults. All our tutorials, they focus on around development. If you want to develop some use cases, they build on top of, idea of use cases. Now, in order you to not stress much about infrastructure, we're providing you with Docker Compose. I think this is the right place to look at, but like I need to I need to check these some of the parameters that you specify here in terms of like a sensible default. I'm all about this kind of like enforcing best practices and providing defaults that will make sense and will work on 80% of use cases. So I hear you. I make myself a note. So yeah, that's something that it makes a lot of sense, because there's a lot of also things. The default images, they might have anonymous metrics reporter, right? So the metrics reporter that just simply does the tick that was container was started in order to get the idea how many Kafka clusters starting every minute in the world. It also kind of like adds to latency during startup, because it will create the metrics reporter. This metrics reporter needs to have its own topic and things like that. So I don't I all about metrics, but I don't like to have this kind of in my environment, because sometimes you need to explain this people too much, like why it's there and things like that. By default, I would prefer to disable it, and in my tests, I disable in some of the tests that I'm showing. Like if you've seen my last week, I don't know how many of you, like if you've seen my last week presentation and the jconf.dev, I was showing some examples, and I used before I introduced TestContainer, I actually showed the Docker Compose with like a minimum setup. KWS container. Oh, yes, Kubernetes container that will have a sensible default. This is the next step.
Did you say KWS?
I misspoke. Yes, it's K8s. Yes, Kates, how the cool kids call it. All right.
That's actually how AWS should have called their Kate's offering.
KWS?
KWS.
Yeah.
Yes. Kubernetes Web Services. It's so cool. I mean, they missed the opportunity. Go patent it.
Elastic Kubernetes service.
Yeah, I think it's called Elastic Kubernetes Service. I
I
mean,
guess. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I switch back to your screen. You
Mhm.
wanna, do we wanna run this? Like, see if it's
Actually, you know what? How many? Okay, we have 9 likes. 9 likes. So 10 likes, and Victor will look into it.
yeah.
Come on, it shouldn't be that hard. Okay, so also starting things
13.
actually.
Yeah, 9 likes. We need to have more. We have 13 people watching, and the cool thing about these people, its number is more or less stable, so it's not going less than 13. We have a spike of
Loads just dropped to 11. Okay,
yeah,
just stop. Just stop. But we got 10 likes, so yeah, we want you to look into it.
11.
11.
11.
So, should we? Shall we?
Yeah, let's let
Eight?
me.
Yeah.
So in this case, like I need to bring this into my screen, and my screen right now doesn't run anything that I can show. So give me just a second. So
Okay. I thought that we are finishing the review of the Kafka cluster.
yeah, this is what we do.
Okay, cool. So yeah, while you're bringing back your screen, I think I'll just
No, I mean like,
look.
do you wanna run this? Like, do you wanna see like what is in terms of like what it does in terms of example and how it works?
The thing is, it's so trivial that I already know how it runs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really do.
So it's
Um,
I will put this in. We have this internal channel about humble brag,
mhm.
and I will put this like it's so trivial. I know how it works, so I will put this in today.
Okay. Okay. So actually, I think I would request a change on this thing, like cluster brokers, because we already have a built-in capability to do this in test containers. It's called exact pattern, or maybe I can just fix it myself. And yeah, I can just fix it in myself actually.
Yes, I also love this feature, like the checkout PR from how it's called, uh, the GitHub CLI.
Mhm.
It's super cool. I use this like every day.
The only thing I miss, like really miss, is the ability to push to the pull request, because I know that most of the contributors, they enable this. So when you submit a pull request, there will
Mm-hmm.
be something like checkbox here saying that allow edits by maintainers, and
Oh,
that's a very cool thing, because if we think that something should be updated, then we update it
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
But
I'm also sometimes kind of like a bit frustrated. So I end up doing either like sending them patch, um, or I need to ask them to add me as a
Mhm.
collaborator to their
Mhm.
repository, this type of stuff.
Alternatively, you could also do it like this. Yeah, so you select the lines you want to change, then you say insert a suggestion, then you copy it back from your IDE, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
I
but like
think
it's a
what I'll
manual
be doing.
patch. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. But then the contributor, he can just press like accept. But I think in
Yes.
this case I can edit his code. Oh, nice. So let's just mess around with the code we have. But yeah, I'm so happy that I'm having a look at this pull request, because it's been on my, like, on the top of my list for so
And
many months.
I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this piece of functionality, and I found this pull request, and I was also waiting for Sergey to merge it. I would just should just should like go there and also pick around, asking
Hmm.
questions, and maybe they will move forward. But hey, live streams, crossing the
Yeah.
streams. This is what we do. We hacking around the code. And do not forget, like this video, 11 likes, and we dropped to 10 concurrent viewers. Let me let me just go and tweet something about this. Okay, I'll just do. We are still running strong. and about to see Kafka cluster.
Maybe while you're typing, just wanted to say that it's actually not a bad idea sometimes to go and check open pull requests. And if you think that there are some things that you can fix, let's say it's pending some changes and the submitter is not working on the pull request anymore. But sometimes it's a good idea to just help and let's say you can submit. So this is what we will be doing. But imagine I'm not a maintainer and I cannot just go and change the file. So instead, you can submit. Why it doesn't work? Okay, I was just so happy about this thing and now it's not working anymore. Okay, yeah. So we want to change this thing, or maybe the maintainer say that, can you please change this thing? You can also submit suggestion, and then either a maintainer or the author of the pull request will merge it, and the pull request will get delivered faster. So it can be a good way to start contributing to open source, start contributing some code. And by the way, when someone merges the suggestion, then you will be a co-author.
So,
and then when
so you're saying,
merge the pull
so you're
request,
saying I even like the people can just, not the random people, like people who passionate and interested to contribute, and they can go and do suggestions. Yeah, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
or you can submit a pull. That's crazy, but you can submit a pull request to the branch that was used to submit the original pull request, like this one, and then the author may accept your contribution. It will instantly show up here and will merge the pull request. So it's like I don't know how to call it, like but it's a good thing. Like you're earning some open source karma by helping others, but you may not be ready to submit a big pull request, but just fixing some small things in others' pull requests. Just please don't submit something like, this project is awesome to readme MD, or to fix something that was already fixed. Like, it's not a good thing to do. And I think you all know what I'm referring to. Yes, but Kafka container cluster test, where is it? I need to add to examples. Why don't I? Kafka cluster? Okay, it's here. Okay, I think it's my lovely IntelliJ messing around with me once again. Both files are not recognized. Oh, perfect. But yeah, that's a very nice way, and not much people, like not everyone is talking about it, but actually it's a good option for you to start contributing. So yeah, just go and check the open pull requests.
Adding Java docs is also fine, unless they should not be very trivial.
Or maybe, I mean, they can be trivial because sometimes we miss trivial Java docs. But yeah, it's always about the quality, and the test containers team is small, so we have a lot of things on our plate. So we may not guarantee that we'll review your pull request in timely manner. And currently we are a bit overwhelmed with all the pull requests that we receive. So we are thinking about going on, open source vacation, and we thought about not accepting kind of like pull requests with new features, only with bug fixes for the upcoming months. Maybe not. We'll see. But yeah.
So what about is there any, like, speaking about, if we're talking about the open source, is there any test containers improvement proposal process, like how to, like, people usually, if they want to contribute some features, like let's split this answer in two. Like, first one is kind of like a more or less straightforward feature, for example, adding new module, adding new container, for some, I don't know, like, because right now there's plenty of modules for different databases and systems. And let me switch, because you're doing something important there. And the second one is something like bigger. For example, I don't know, like not to use Docker, but use some other runtime to whatever. So test containers improvement proposals. Yes. Tip.
Okay, so
Wow, that I like this name. I like this. I like this idea. Like, let me put this in there.
we don't have a tip process yet, but usually it's very trivial. Like if you have an idea and you think this idea is good one, it's up to you how to proceed. Like if you think that it will take you, let's say, I don't know, 1 day of work to implement it and you're ready to submit a pull request, just do it. We may reject it, and sometimes we have to reject even good pull requests if we think that they are not aligned with some of the promises we make. This happened to the reusable containers features that was initially contributed because we already had this idea for years in our heads, and then someone just dropped a massive pull request with the implementation that wasn't, as good as we wanted it to be, and there were many edge cases that we wanted to cover. So we had to push it back, and it's always uneasy to reject pull requests in open source because someone have spent time working on it, and we always respect time spent on our projects. But we also want to make sure that we deliver the quality, or at least we think that we deliver the quality. And because of that, sometimes we just have to push back.
So what would be a right way to do in this case? So you want to so this is why, like, I'm speaking from experience from the Kafka community, where we have an improvement proposal where you cannot just like go in there and just like propose something, but like, there is a the mail list where the discussions happen, and I think it's okay to opt out of mail list because I still feel weird and extremely ancient when we're talking about mail lists. Like GitHub issue, like, and because it has a great capabilities for collaboration and the sending comments and the stating and things like that. And as a matter of fact, you can also reply to email if you like.
Yeah.
So I like the I like this idea, like with there's a place where the thing is described. So this the similar approach like ksqdb is following, obviously, because it's the mentality, open source mentality is ksqdb is like inherited from Kafka approach. So there's like all these decisions, for example, changing the syntax is structured as a keep. That also allows people to dig after when they understand how the features work. They can go and look into this, the proposal, because proposal usually also have a, say, some code and some of the code snippets that explains like how the interface would be changed or the API would be different and things like that. So, like, long story short, my question was like, how you would feel ideally if someone wants to contribute something, how to start this discussion? Is it like a Slack? Is it?
So if it takes more than 1 day to submit a pull request, or someone is unsure whether it's a good idea at all or not, then I think starting a GitHub issue and maybe following up on Slack is a good idea. We have a channel for contributors on Slack where you can drop your link to the issue and then ask for the opinions. Please do not ping us like, hey, can you look at this issue? Because we have a special channel on Slack where we receive all the notifications from GitHub on TestContainers repo, and we never miss a single new issue or command or pull request or any other activity in the repo. This is why we reply so fast.
So now I know. Now I know how you quickly.
This is my trick. Yeah.
Yes, this is the trick. Like when I'm waking up, and because you're running few hours, in front of me because of the European time zone, and like I'm waking up and there's already some. Hey, there's someone submitted the questions about Kafka test containers. Go take a look. Like, wow, this guy is on top of the things. Now I know. More notification. Yep. More notifications.
Yes. Luckily, it's just a separate channel. Oh, come on, Kevin. I know that you and Richard are also watching the channel, and yeah, I think we have a great community. What actually surprises me and I'm really happy about the test containers community is that sometimes you see other community members helping each other. Like just you go there and you want to reply and you see someone already replied. It's especially notable on Slack and on Stack Overflow because I've been answering Stack Overflow and I've been earning my reputation on Stack Overflow by answering test containers questions almost alone. And now most of the time I just open the question just to ensure that someone already answered. And I may correct the answer, but most of the time we receive a proper correct answers to the questions about test containers from the community. This is super cool.
Yeah, that's that's pretty cool. Let me post small meme that I posted yesterday. This is a I like this approach when some of the the teams, they use Stack Overflow as kind of dedicated support portal. And one of the things that I spoke with core maintainers on Spring Kafka project, and Gary and Artyom, I asked them like, what's the best way to reach out? Even though like Gary and Artyom on my speed dial, I know how to find them in person. Like I like to follow. So first of all, like if I have some questions, if I would tag it like Spring-Kafka in Stack Overflow, I know that either Artyom or Gary or someone from the team will answer. And but also, it's cool thing that someone else will find this similar question in Stack Overflow instead of just like me going through the back channel. It's going in open, and even having this question, maybe someone will have the similar problem and they will find this in the Stack Overflow and find this useful because they see the answer from. This is how it's not about kind of like someone like owe you answer, right? It's all about like a courtesy and how you share the knowledge. If you don't have a time to like properly write the blog post or writing some of the explanation, just like have a courtesy to review the answers what the people gave you and accept this as a something, say thank you, and after that it will help the person who most likely will have a similar problem, because there's no I don't believe that there's like unique problems. There at least like 2 or 3 people will have like similar problem. It's in if the Stack Overflow answer help them, just like do part of pay your dues, do your part. All right, so we are too inspirational, I guess, today. So what we're looking at? So we're again looking into your screen.
Okay, cool. Because I just replaced it with exact container pattern. I later realized that we can actually use C exact container, container exact container, and yeah, it's as simple as this. And while looking at the code, by the way, I'm gonna apply the code style change, but seriously, like that's the thing I learned after I started working with lambdas in Java. And that's what I started doing, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Is if you have a lambda longer than one line, just don't use short syntax. Just see this, right? Anything like unreliables, retry until true, you map it to cluster brokers, then any match, right? So this is how it reads, like line by line, right?
Yeah.
Viktor, just answer me.
Yes, I see it.
And yes, just kidding. And in fact, what we are doing is we are retrying until true this lambda. Like I can just remove it to show you that we are not doing any map or whatever on the result. And this is what confuses me. Like maybe it's me, maybe I have some, wrong brain or something, but I really want to see that the scope of this thing is this. And my lovely IntelliJ suggests that this is the scope, but still, like it's even easier to read because now I can start from here, the stream of Zookeeper, less indentation as well. It's all better when you have it like this. And there's a very little overhead of adding some curly brackets and return. Because now I
But
can see
IntelliJ
that...
India will offer you to remove return and inline, right?
Yes, so I can actually change from Oops, not this one, but I can do back and forth.
How it
Nope,
was
I
before?
cannot.
Can you?
It was like this. And then if I hit Alt Enter on the error, then I can do expand lambda body to long form.
So I personally prefer the same way because sometimes like brackets would be too confusing, and I have a maybe it's a personal thing as well. So I
So which
would,
one you prefer,
yeah,
this or
I would
this?
prefer no, the second one.
Like
Yeah,
this.
something like this. Even though it's a one-liner, because in my, I would see this more clearly. I understand when I can replace the lambda with meta reference, it makes sense. But here there's like a little bit more context that happening here. So
Like this.
I something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So because in this case it's kind of like makes sense because it's like, yeah, that's what you do. You just do like casting. And I agree here. It would be um, I would also kind of like opt for like maybe groovy style, maybe, right? So like just don't have return, and it would be implicit return. But it's just like personal preference. I would like to have it like in the brackets too. It would be, you know, the like syntactical scope and logical scope as well. So
What I wanted, what else I wanted to change? Sorry, did I interrupt you or?
No. It's
Okay.
we need to definitely try next time different sound system because sometimes like where there's delay, the Skype trying to catch up, and you sound funny.
Okay. Okay.
You sound funny like
Well,
you're talking like very very fast, like very
I
very
mean,
fast.
sometimes I sound funny in real life as well, so that's fine. And by the way, I just noticed that Machi joined us, and Machi is helping me to run Berlin Spring user group. So hey, Machi, I'm really happy to see you here. Just wanted to shout out. But let's, you know what? Let's first of all, can you answer the question? Do you know which language the person who submitted this pull request prefers?
I know.
Which GVM language?
I know.
And the answer is,
Scala.
of course. So it seems that this code is doing literally this, like cluster brokers of this.zookeeper brokers, and then return this and a now check. I do hope that my English did sound good so that it was and now check and oh jeez, why did I start? Okay, never mind. So we are checking for now value, and we check for the length of the broker's returns from zookeeper. And what also I'll be doing here, I'll piece off Kevin because I'll remove this method and I'll inline it, because when it was like this, I thought that this method is executed for every broker, because I see a container reference here, and I thought that we execute this method for each container. Apparently, we need it only once. We have only one use, and that's the thing we always, me and the team always fight about, because Kevin prefers extracting methods. Richard is, he's person from England, so he's always polite, and he would never, have a strong opinion. But luckily, he's our tiebreaker, and for some reason, I prefer to not extract methods unless it really makes sense, because sometimes you miss some obvious optimizations. There's something we do last time with Kafka when we just removed start zookeeper, because we could start zookeeper as part of our main script. But here I'm just extracting, and now I can finally read this code. We retry until zookeeper list brokers returns non-null result, and when we split, we get the length equals to the broker's number. So now I understand what this code is doing, and I just hope that I run this test again and it will return the correct result,
There's some
but it
compilation
should.
errors.
That's IntelliJ being IntelliJ. I mean, the class is there. It's the same package. You see, same package, same class. It works. But for some reason, IntelliJ says that the class should be red or like it does not exist. Oh well. But as you can see, the test is running because I delegate to Gradle. And that's a good thing, by the way. If you can do delegate to Gradle, because, well, then you always have the same result as when you run /Gradle test. And it fails. Cannot connect to root. Oh, yeah. I know why, because I need to synchronize with master. Okay, let's just smart merge. Okay, roll back. Okay, I think now we're good. I thought that I ran the test before, didn't I? But anyways, we can run it now. And it should work just fine. Most probably it would download an image now.
And
some big image.
Yeah, it's another thing when I mentioned this during this stream. You know, the debugging. They just enable this log consumer and or do not, you know.
Okay, it didn't merge with.
Did you break a?
No, I did not. I didn't merge it with master. Sorry for that. Had some local changes. More local changes. It's so annoying, to be honest. Just delete some local changes and now please just let me merge into current and Kafka container. Oh no, more. Yeah, it's so fun, you know, solving this merge conflicts. Kafka container test, I just want to use one that's currently in master. And can I please run this thing? And we don't need this, by the way. Now most probably it will fail with this. Oh no, it's actually there. That's nice. But yeah, TestContainers uses logback or SL4J. So please make sure that you have logback or log4j or some other logging limitations. There's also SL4J simple that will delegate to Java logging. But do add some logging frameworks so that you see what's going on, because obviously this is not what you want to see in the logs, right? Yeah. You want to see some proper message, and I think I'll even add it right now while we're running. I think we are a bit over time, right?
Yeah, just let's give it another spin, and we will, as always, we continue next time. As you know,
but I think it's
all
funny.
the good things are happened after we click the stop stream.
No, this time it was green before we stopped the stream. Yes, yes.
So we're getting this example with the clusters. Hopefully, very time soon. I would love to to look on this pull request as well, and see how it goes, because I think it's useful. Because another thing, the reason why I'm doing this, I'm not just like altruistic and I'm selfish.
Of course.
So yeah, because I was looking for, I was looking to ways how I can introduce. When we talk about integration testing, and I switch to our cameras while you're doing the pushes. When I was talking about integration testing, another approach where integration testing is actually wins is in cloud, right? So you might have environments where you have like you need to pay for development environment, and developers don't like to pay. Period. As like everything in life, if it's not free, so maybe it's something wrong with it. But anyway, yeah. So having the ability to run this like cloud-based infrastructure locally, and have after that like successfully move to production where someone else will manage your environment, aka cloud. This is something that also like sounds very appealing for many developers. So I was thinking, I think I should do test containers configuration or example or something that will just emulate behavior that you will get from the Confluent Cloud, right? So you will have, by default, you're starting your cluster, even though it can grow on demand and things like that. But like when you're starting small, when you're starting simple, what do? You go in there and saying, spin up the cluster, and by default it will have like 3 publicly available endpoints, 3 brokers, and replication factory 3. So test container is the perfect tool to emulate this type of scenario. Just like provide same configuration, so your client who connects to cluster will follow the same, say like SSL plane. Here's their username and password, and it can be very easily done with test containers because it's just like a go in, and we can actually talk about this. I will try to build a prototype, and you will destroy my code afterwards, as you always do in these live streams. That's the whole purpose. And after that, just like once your application is written, you test it out, like you run this through CI, you can like successfully deploy this to production with Confluent Cloud by changing 2 things. One thing is the Bootstrap endpoint, and second thing is your API keys. That's it. So in this case, the Kafka cluster will fit in this picture fantastically.
I hope so. But don't forget that we are contributing it as an example, by the way, not as a module, but as an example, because the whole idea of examples that we have is to show that you can do these things with the API
existing
we already
APIs.
provide.
Exactly. Yeah. We would discuss this in the backend day, and maybe like when I started this, like my separate the project when I was talking about Confluent platform. So it actually not the module per se, right? It rather example how to reuse like Kafka containers and some generic containers, because essentially schema registry container and ksqdb containers, they're just like generic containers that I use the same API. I just like expose some environment, or like providing some environment variable, expose some ports, and that's it. So maybe just like right now it's just pretty much example of how to test in different situations. All right, so let's see. So did you push this pull request? I already done everything.
You know what I did? I did push, but guess what? Remember I said that I wish I could just push to the source, like to the upstream. But by default, instead of, so let me show you, because I messed up the thing. So I'm on a branch that GitHub CLI created for me, so that I can work on the code in read-only mode. And I always forget about this. So I pushed, or I committed, or did I push? I think I just committed. And apparently what it did, it created a branch in the TestContainers repo, I think. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I wish I could just say like GH, PR, whatever it was, like blah, 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 and upstream or whatever, so that it adds the upstream to my branch. And now I'll need to point this branch to the upstream branch. But instead, what I did, I just went ahead to GitHub UI, life hack. I pressed edit here because I'm maintainer, and that's how maintainers can hack around your code. But please always enable this allow edits from maintainers, because it really helps. I copied this code, like I pasted it here, and I committed it from here. So sometimes I do things from the UI, and this is absolutely fine, like why not? But that's the commit we just made. Yeah, simplify Kafka container cluster start. and we removed some things, we simplified some other things, and boom, yeah, we are getting closer to get it merged. We need to merge it with master because I had to adjust some things, but I think after the stream, soon after the stream, I'll just get it merged because I really want to merge it. And it always feels bad about having a great contribution pending. And luckily, in this case, Sean is very polite, and we exchanged with him on this, like, okay, is it okay that it's still pending? He was like, yeah, absolutely okay, because we already integrated in Alpaca Kafka. But yeah, just that's the bad part about being a contributor. You always feel bad about not doing enough. Like, you always want to merge more pull requests. You always want to review more code, more issues. You want to help people, and it's all about the time. So yeah.
Yes, speaking about time, it was great time. This is why I like this time. So first of all, like first hour, it's kind of like still we're in a awkward mood, right? We're trying to like, okay, so we switch from our work. It's evening for your time, like middle of the day for my time, and I like and after that, like the first hours of, and now we just like in this mode when we just like crushing things, and after that, oh, how much time? It's almost 2 hours, so have to say goodbye. So we will say we'll see you next week, hopefully. Yeah. So this is you already have some of the roadmap that we're planning to do. We will continue to hanging around on some test containers to bring some of the stream processing goodies and things like that into the next streams. Sergey mentioned very good point today. Folks, if you're interested us to talking about some of the things, again, in a in a in a circle of our interest and our competency, let us know. Ping us in Twitter. Twitter is conveniently placed on the footer of this how it's called, the card, like the screen, like background. We do have a Avengers Tower today is
Frame.
on the background, courtesy of Marvel. Um, no, seriously, when these like all this like a pandemic and shelter in place started, they were on the official Marvel blog saying, "Hey, there's like your Zoom background, use it, just
Oh, really?
yeah, enjoy."
That's
And
cool.
yeah, so there's like Avengers Tower. Like last time, some people maybe did not notice, but like we use the Tony Stark lab is our background. So we will also we're trying to having fun here in
And next
in
day,
this lab.
DMCA notification, and the video is removed, and we're like,
So the
just
worst the
kidding.
worst thing that might happen is actually not DMCA. DMCA is not policing like very hard these days. Only they so the worst thing that might happen is just like our monetization, which we're not doing, will be just like the video will not be available for monetization. But I'm very very far from being monetized on this one. So maybe one day, but not that. So if you want to be sponsored, you know where to find us. See the trying to do what this.
Since we are
We
talking
need to.
about sponsorship, can
Yes,
I? Okay, then
please.
just a quick note that it's actually not related to our streams, but to the Test Containers project that I represent here. But I'm just a part of the bigger community. And if you really want to say thank you to these bigger communities, then you can go and sponsor Test Containers project on GitHub or Open Collective. You easily find the link, so we won't even post it here or whatever. If you want, just find it. Because we do have some sponsors and we really appreciate them. But if you think that test containers really helped you, then you can sponsor the project, not just individuals. Yeah, that's just quick note.
All right, and with that, thank you so much for being a part of we call it crossing the streams version of live streams. Our contacts in the footer, you know where to find us, and as always, have a nice day.
Bye bye.
And stream